Once upon a time, a brother and sister named Hansel and Gretel lived in a hut in the woods with their father, who was a poor woodcutter. And they lived with his wife, their stepmother. The stepmother made their life very hard. They were not allowed to eat until after the stepmother had taken everything she wanted off the plates, and she was really greedy and mean. Most of the time, there was only a little bit of crust of bread left for the brother and sister to eat. All day long, they had to work super hard chores. Hansel and Gretel tried to tell their father about this, but he would not hear of it. It seemed the only one he would listen to was his wife. And all the stepmother talked about was about how much trouble it was to have children in the hut and how much she wished they would just go away forever. So each day there was less and less food for the boy and girl to eat, yet the stepmother gave them more and more hard work to do. One day Gretel begged her father, "Please, father, all day long we worked hard and we're hungry." But the stepmother slapped her in the face and said, "You ungrateful brats, you will eat us out of house and home." That night, the two children were not allowed to sleep inside the hut. They had to sleep outside in the cold where they shivered and tried to keep each other warm. Winter was coming and the clothes they wore were so thin it felt almost as they had no clothes on at all. The next morning the sun rose and Gretel turned to her little brother, and "Hansel," she said, "we cannot stay here. We must escape now today into the woods. Surely we'll find more to eat when we are on our own, and when we get here, surely we'll find more to eat out on our own than what we get here at home." But what if we get lost?" asked Hansel. "We won't," said Gretel. "I'll take bread. We'll drop breadcrumbs behind us, and if we have to, we can follow the crumbs back home." And so the two of them went off into the woods and left their hard life behind. They went deeper and deeper into the woods. Gretel was careful to drop one crumb, and then after a bit, another. But alas, they looked and looked for any sign of something to eat: an apple tree, a pear tree, some nuts on the ground, even dried up berries. There was nothing to eat. They got hungrier and hungrier. At last, poor Hansel and Gretel knew they must return to their hut, or they would surely starve. They would just have to find the breadcrumbs, and that would lead them home. Yet when they looked for breadcrumbs, there were none to be found. All the breadcrumbs were gone. A bird whooshed up into the air, and in its beak was a large crumb. Hansel and Gretel were struck with grief. The birds must have taken all their breadcrumbs. A wolf howled in the distance. The sun was setting. Hansel and Gretel were lost and hungry. Now they were scared too. "Gretel," whispered Hansel in fear, "what will we do?" She didn't know what to say. All she could do was hug her little brother. Each minute it was getting darker and darker. Again, a wolf howled in the distance. All of a sudden, Gretel saw a small light shining far away. Could it be someone's hut in this deep in the woods? "We must find out," said Gretel. "Maybe whoever lives there is kind and will take us in." The little children, they just sped as fast as they could towards the light. When they got closer, they could not believe their eyes. If you can imagine this, a house from top to bottom was made all of candy. From its gingerbread roof with frosting all over the walls and with candies tucked in the frosting. It was a sight to see. "Gretel!" Hansel cried out before Gretel could say, "I bet it'll be okay if we just have a little taste." Both of them were already biting off small chunks and licking the sweet candy. A sharp voice exclaimed, "Who is nibbling on my house?" Hansel and Gretel spun around, and there before them was an old witch. Stunned, Gretel could only curtsy. "If you please, ma'am," she said as sweetly as she could. "There is so much candy on your house, and we are so hungry." "You have that right. My house," snapped the witch. Her voice dropped. "Well then," said the witch in a gentle tone, "come inside. I'll get something for you to eat." Hansel and Gretel looked at each other in delight, and they skipped into the witch's hut. They had a fine meal of soup and bread. And as they licked the last crust of bread and looked around the hut, what Hansel and Gretel saw made their hearts turn cold. Piles and piles of bones in the corners. Yet the two children were very tired, so they slept. The next morning when they woke, Hansel found himself locked in a cage. The witch roared, "That's where your brother will stay. Every day I will fatten him up. Soon he will make me a fine dinner." And then she laughed, rubbing her hands with glee. "Till then," she said sharply to Gretel, "you will work for me." Indeed, Hansel was fed well, and Gretel worked hard all day doing chores for the witch. Each morning the witch said to the boy, "Show me your finger. I will feel how plump you are getting." For the old witch could not see well. Hansel held out his finger as he was told. The witch smiled when she felt how plump he was getting. "Gretel," whispered Hansel in fear, "what are we to do? Soon I'll be plump enough and the witch will want to eat me." His sister wished she had a plan, but she could think of nothing. One night, when the witch was sleeping, Gretel had an idea. She picked up a bone from one of the piles on the floor and woke her brother. "Hansel, the next time the witch asks to see your finger, hold out this bone to her instead." The next morning he did just that. "Huh," said the witch, touching the bone, thinking it was the boy's finger. "This is going to take longer than I thought." "At least I have more time," Gretel thought to herself. But still, she couldn't think of any way to get out of their situation. Each morning when the witch said, "Show me your finger," Hansel held out the thin bone. One day the witch yelled, "I will not wait another day. The boy will be my dinner tonight, no matter how skinny he is." The witch ordered Gretel to start the fire in the oven at once. She must get it very hot. Gretel worked as slowly as she could. Why was the witch looking at her with such a sly smile? "Be a dear," said the witch with a slow grin. "Go inside the oven, won't you? Tell me if it is hot enough." Gretel's heart skipped a beat. If she did that, the witch could just push her inside and she would eat them both. She looked down. "I'm not sure how to tell." "Nonsense," said the witch. "Nothing can be easier. Just go in." Said Gretel slowly. "Please show me first." "Stupid girl," snapped the witch. Mumbling and grumbling, she stepped in the oven. The moment the witch was inside, Gretel quickly slammed the door. "Gretel!" Hansel cried out. "You saved us." The sister tried to think fast. "Where is that key to your cage?" She looked and looked. At last she found it at the bottom of a vase. She freed her brother from the cage right away. Then she went back to the vase for what she had felt under the key, while the vase had precious jewels inside. With their pockets filled with the jewels, they ran outside as fast as they could. In the daylight, they soon found a small path and followed it. It led to a wider path that led to a path to a road. They waited by the roadside, hoping someone would stop by. Eventually, a horseman trotted up. Hansel and Gretel waved their hands. When the horseman stopped, the children offered one of the small jewels, and the horseman was happy to give them a ride home. When the brother and sister opened the door to their home, their father was wild with joy to see them. He had worried and looked for them night and day since they had vanished. They learned their stepmother died very soon after they left. For many years to come, Hansel and Gretel lived very happily with their father in the hut in the woods. So, okay, kids, first of all, you get upset at your parents, step-parents, don't run off in the middle of the night. And if you run off in the middle of the night and you see a strange house in the woods, don't go to it. Definitely don't eat it. And when a woman who looks like a witch invites you inside, don't go inside. Say no. Stranger danger. That's all. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this. Hope you have a great day. Bye.